A special anniversary, September 10th, 2021, 3 years ago. Alana McLaughlin getting the W in her MMA debut over Celine Provost in Miami. It was a big night, a special night, and now it's the subject of a documentary. Oh, by the way, Alana McLaughlin got her first win. She's still waiting for fight number 2. Hello again, everybody. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. This is Transposition Sports. Out in the sunshine. Transposition Sports in the sunshine. That's right, I figured I'd walk and talk a little bit as we look at the week that was. And right at the top, Italian Paralympic sprinter Valentina Petrillo hitting back at J.K. Rowling and doing it with some style, and I'm here for it. She did a sit-down interview with the Times after the Paralympics earlier this week, and she basically said, I don't know who J.K. Rowling is. I've heard of her books. I've never read them. The shade was evident, and again, I'm here for that shade. Now, Petrillo got to her first Paralympics this year and reached the semifinals in both the T12 classification 200 meters and 400 meters. No, she wasn't able to match her hero, Pietro Maneo, and win a gold medal or any medal. She was knocked out at the semifinals in both races. But the mere fact that she showed up and she raced and competed well was more than enough for this observer. Now, folks around Transposition Sports and people followed me, we first got to know Valentina 4 years ago. She sat down on my previous podcast, The Transporter Room, along with Don Ennis for an interview. And she said this was her hopes for her Paralympic experience to come.
So she won 11 titles in the Paralympic category, 2,000 and 200 and 400 meters. Her biggest fear was that while starting a transition with the hormones and everything, she was not going to be accepted in the sports world, So that was her biggest fear.
Of course, that dream got deferred for Tokyo. She wasn't selected for the Italian squad, but in 2024, she came back, got on the squad, got the hop to Paris, coming off a successful World Para Athletics Championship in 2023, where she won 2 bronze medals in both events. Of course, the boo birds have been out. People like J.K. Rowling calling her a cheat. Now, just a note, J.K., how in the world can you cheat when you're following every rule to the letter? Explain that to me. I'm serious, J.K. Call me. Let's talk about that. How can you be a cheater if you're following every rule to the letter? Transphobia. That's why we can't have nice things and why it rots your brain. But what I will say for Valentina Petrillo is you done good. You done real good. You did well just getting to the Paralympics. And you competed well. You said after your first race at the Paralympics that you were hoping that your son would be proud of you. Trust me, he's quite proud. Will Valentina try again for Los Angeles in 2028? Difficult to say. The actual aerial tables are not in her favor after all. She entered these Paralympics at 51 years old. She would be 55 at the time of the opening ceremonies for the Paralympics in LA. So no matter what, Valentina Petrillo has etched her place in the pantheon of trans people who want to compete and do their best. And I can tell you, I'm appreciative of everything I've gotten to see over the last 4 years. Grazie, Valentina. Grazie. You done well. You did real well. And I salute you. Follow up on an item from last week, the situation for Sutton United Football Club and goalkeeper Blair Hamilton. Well, it looks like Blair will not be playing, but at least we know why. Apparently, Sutton United, who had to forfeit a match over fallout over manager Lucy Clark signing Hamilton to a deal in late August. Hamilton, as you know, transgender woman who is a goalkeeper who's played on 5 teams over the last 8 years across the English football pyramid, played in university play, was part of the British universities team for a tournament. She's a known commodity, but certain people got their noses in the joint about it, and it led to a match in their league being postponed. Now they play at tier 5 in the women's English football pyramid, but it seems some people had a problem with Blair Hamilton being there, and of course the usual suspects were out, including Telegraph sports writer, and I use that term very loosely, Oliver Brown, who made a number of false statements, including trying to attribute to Lucy Clark that Clark wanted an all-trans team at Sutton United, and trying to sell that by extrapolating a story on Truck United FC. We explained a lot of this last week. Truck United FC, as you know, a team that plays in the FA's charity leagues, plays in rec leagues. They were designed to be an all-trans team to give just transgender people an opportunity just to play, especially if you've never played before. Brooke has done a couple turns with the team in the past, but Oliver Brown extrapolated that and basically lied to the public about this. And at any other newspaper, any other media outlet, he would be fired for it. But because he writes for the pro-Farage, pro-reform, ultra-right, neo-fascist Tory graph, he gets passed on that. As a journalist, that offends me. Another person who's offended by the way things went down, given that now Sutton United is still without a goalkeeper, and it looks like Blair Hamilton won't be in a Sutton United kit anytime soon, is a good friend of both Hamilton and the podcast. Phoebe Rose, the host of the podcast Transition Stories. Right now they're getting ready for their 6th season. They got a big show. We had some big shows coming up over the next few weeks. Is a person who's well versed on these issues. I got the chance to interview her 3 years ago, and what she said then was prophetic.
If you're an openly trans athlete, you may as well just paint a red and white target on you. Because you're going to have the modern day lynch mob come after you. Whether you're in a swimming pool, whether you're in Rhode Island and you're just two people that want to run around a track, whether you're in Texas and you just want to play high school flag football, you're going to have the nonsense mongering brigade come after you just because you exist. Just because you exist.
Rose has always been known for her strong opinions, and those have indulged throughout the years, even with a move across the pond and with a marriage last year. And we got to sit in with her earlier this week, and here's what she had to say about the mess surrounding Sutton United. What's your thoughts on how this has all gone down? Because Sutton is advertising on Twitter for a goalkeeper now.
It's a safety hazard. Straight up, it's a safety hazard because you're inciting a mob. I mean, it's no different to when mail carriers used to shout at that non-whites had moved into an all-white area. You're inciting a mob. That's all you're doing. It's a safety hazard. That's why Sutton are having to do it, because it's a safety hazard for Blair now. It's a safety hazard for other trans people. It's intimidation for trans people who want to just exist and play sport. And it's lies, it's propaganda. We've seen it all before. We saw it when there was immigration into the UK and there was signs assuming that all Irishmen were drunks and would beat you up. And there were signs that assumed that all members from the Commonwealth were, animals that would come and attack your children and attack your women. And then they said the same thing about those who weren't heterosexual, that they were all paedophiles and all this, that, and the other. And now guess what? They're saying all the same nonsense recycled over and over and over and over and over and over and over again about trans people. Because guess what? It's easy to recycle rubbish. It's easy to incite a mob. More difficult to go, hang on a minute, is that person talking a complete load of horse manure towards me, or should I actually think about this for a second and go, what if I was in the position of the person that's having the horse manure spoken about them? Have I actually got any evidence of what's actually being said here? Now, I'll just throw that in the bin. But it's recycled garbage. It's recycled rubbish. And it's just frustrating that we refuse to learn from the mistakes of history. I mean, all Blair wants to do is pull on a pair of gloves, pull on a shirt, and go and play. She played 2 seasons for Salton United. No one gave a hoot. Nobody gave a hoot. She played for Hastings United. A couple of people gave a hoot there. She played for Montpellier Villa. Nobody gave a hoot. So, you mean to tell me that the games that she played for Montpellier Villa, the games that she played for Hastings United, and the games that she played for Sutton United were all nonsense and ridiculous and dangerous to the other players on the pitch? She played over 200 games in those seasons combined. She won leagues, she lost leagues. She won cups, she lost cups. She saved goals, she let goals in. She's a goalkeeper, playing football in a team. It's not like this is, groundbreaking. And all this nonsense that you hear about, quote, biological genetic advantages. Well, we should have stopped Usain Bolt from competing. We should have stopped Michael Phelps from competing. We should stop Simone Biles from competing because they've got all biological genetic advantages over the other competitors because that's how sport works. Sport is not a level playing field. The rules are a level playing field, but the individuals in those sports are not a level playing field. If Carly and I got on a gridiron, Carly would absolutely destroy me because I've never played gridiron football before. Never in my life.
But one thing you said that you had the opportunity to talk to Blair. What's kind of been her mood? Because Blair hasn't said much outside of hasn't said much to the media. Blair being Blair.
Well, she won't.
Doesn't talk to a lot of people.
The only things that Blair is interested in talking about is her work. That's it. She's a very private person. She is a very private person.
And that's one thing. Transposition Sports, we had a chance to interview her last month about her work. And you figured that more people at least read that work. Because they can give you an insight into what's really happening here.
I mean, Blair is a very private person. She's on social media for work purposes, and she does very minor things on social media. She's not like me and goes out on all of it. She's not like Carly who goes out on all of it. It's really jarring for her because she's a very private person with a very private life, and she wants nothing to do with it. She just wants to go and watch the games.
Now, one thing, get used to hearing that voice around these parts because you'll be hearing it again next month. Around the time of the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas in mid-October, Rose will be back to preview the race and talk more about some of the issues. She's going to be a recurring part of Transposition Sports, and Transposition Sports is also going to go to her domain. Sometime later this year, I'm going to be on her seat for Transition Stories. It'll be my second interview, and I'm looking forward to it.
Alana, second interview, take one, Mark.
Mixed martial arts, it's a way to sort of re-inhabit and reclaim my body. It lets me feel like I have some measure of control that I might not otherwise feel that I have.
You look for a fighter that you could really create a story about. And certainly Alana deserves an opportunity.
MMA is probably one of the sports where people are most going to be pissed off about a trans woman participating because of the violent aspect of the sport in the first place.
When people first hear transgender fighter, former military, they're like, no, we don't want that, we don't need that, we don't think that should even exist.
Putting herself out there in this very international public way to be a target of transphobic hate.
I've gotten thousands of death threats, like easily thousands of death threats.
I've never had a more challenging task than finding Alana McLaughlin an opponent. There were people that were offended. How could you even ask me this question?
Alana says she's a woman, but the truth is she was born a man, she grew up a man, all the lungs of a man, the disposal of a man. I think it's a man taking advantage of the system. I think that's sick and perverse.
You want me in there being your boogeyman, so get me a fight.
I do know that it bothers her, but I've also seen her rise above it.
We just want to live and compete, and work. That's all that any person wants. Take trans, cis, gay, straight, black, white, whatever out of the equation.
Pretty soon there'll be no women's sports. It'll just be men that couldn't hack it as pros. They'll switch to become women and they'll dominate women's sports.
People have a lot of feelings about trans athletes. It's not actually backed up by the facts of what is actually happening.
I want everyone that comes after me to not have to deal with the same fear mongering I've had to deal with. I want a better world for the people that come after me.
Her power, her strength wasn't the same. McLaughlin has to survive here. You can't keep punching like that.
Alana needs to keep her hands up and her head up, because if not, it's going to be a very dangerous situation for her.
The only way that trans people are going to have more freedom and more inclusion is if we step up and make that space, clear it out for ourselves, because it's definitely not going to be given to us.
In our spotlight this week, though, we had a special interview. Remember September 10th, 2021, Alana McLaughlin, MMA fighter, making her debut, trans flag aloft. And it set a lot of hearts ablaze, including my own. The story that led to that fight is the subject of a documentary film by award-winning filmmaker Mark Perez on the Wix platform and several other streaming platforms. That it's called Unfightable, and it looks back at at Alana McLaughlin's life and her road to that first fight. I've gotten a chance to see an advanced screening of it, and it's good. It's really good. It's worth checking out. There's some faces that you'll know in it, including a face that you get to see here at TransPositions Sports week to week. Hashtag just saying. But also, this comes at the time when sports, especially trans people in sports, again under scrutiny with the situations that happened in the Olympics and the Paralympics recently. But it also drops at the time of an anniversary that is bittersweet. Alana McLaughlin has not fought again since that first fight. And that's something that sticks in her craw, and it also sticks in mine and many others. We had the opportunity to sit down with Alana and talk about the past, the present, what's ahead, and what she thinks about where we're at right now. 1 month after all hell broke loose at the Olympics over this same issues, first, what was your thought on that? On what went down with the whole boxing controversy in Paris a month ago?
Oh God, yeah. I was definitely disappointed with a lot of the media coverage. The rampant speculation on, Iman, whether or not she was intersex, or, just the wild claims being made by, certain billionaire children's book authors. It just, things got nasty. And, just at the specter of a potential trans athlete, when neither Iman nor the other boxer were even trans. And I guess there was definitely some disappointment from even the friendly folks that were defending Iman, who don't reserve that kind of energy for trans athletes as well.
Would that give you pause based on what you're talking about if you did get that next offer for that next fight?
No. I'm still looking for a fight. That's until I can't do it anymore. That's what I'm trying to do. You've probably had pretty similar experiences to me, but I found that sitting in the corner and letting it pass you by, keeping quiet, it doesn't benefit you in any way.
But one thing I do know, following your social media, you're keeping yourself in trim, ready to go.
Do what I got to do.
You're keeping yourself moving, ready to go. But what do you hope people like, especially athletes like us, what do you hope they take from it?
Well, I hope I hope that if there's other trans athletes watching it, that they see that that as hard as things are, that we can still kind of plant our feet and start swinging. That we can, that it's possible. Even as difficult as things are, that we can make some kind of difference. It's really frustrating that in athletics in general, we're still being sort of pushed out, and there's lots of regulatory stuff not going our way. But yeah, I don't know. I just hope that folks can take some kind of comfort from seeing that it's been done.
Since the beginning of this year, we've seen more of the bills getting onto legislative floors. We've seen a 13-year-old girl get called a hulking male. We've seen 2 high school kids get booed. We saw the mess in Paris with Lin Yuting and Amani Khalif. Where are allies screwing up? Let's go there. Where are they screwing up?
Their absence. I mean, I spoke with somebody else about this earlier, but like you look at like some of the prominent queer media organizations and supposed trans rights orgs or queer rights orgs that are just kind of stepping back from trans rights entirely. You probably have some idea who I'm talking about. They're more inclined to appeal to advertisers and be entertainment powerhouses rather than actually support trans people. I would say that a lot of it comes down to people are afraid. And, I've often been critical of the cowardice of supposed allies. And, I don't want to drive away potential allies, but right now our current allies aren't doing enough. A lot of them aren't doing much of anything at all. And I think that maybe there's some zero-sum thinking going on. There's folks that are worried about their own standing, and there's a fear that trying to push for trans inclusion, for trans rights, is going to somehow negatively impact their own. And my biggest criticism is that they're just not showing up. Yeah.
What was the toughest part of doing this project for you? Because it goes deep in some things that, in some ways, I couldn't blame you if you want to bury them.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of that moral cowardice, like I'm very frustrated that there haven't been more people with resources sort of giving me opportunities, giving other trans women opportunities. It's extremely disheartening, to say the least.
What's been the good that's come from it in the last 3 years? Of you not only having that fight, but also telling your story. What's been some of the good that's come from it?
Well, for me personally, well, I guess the positive stuff is when I get messages from younger queer and trans folks that are messages of support, messages telling me that they appreciate what I'm doing, that it's helping them. That's the most positive stuff for me. It's been good to get my own house and all that, but that didn't have a whole lot to do with this project. That's just personal stuff on the side. Yeah, I don't know, the personal benefit from this, there hasn't really been that much. Like, it's not like it was 20, 30 years ago where fame kind of came with fortune. Those were things that were hand in hand. I know a lot of poor famous people. So this the on a personal level, like the biggest way I've benefited from this is just knowing that I've been able to reach some younger folks and sort of give them a little bit of heart.
Well, here's the thing. It hasn't been just It hasn't been just the young folks. I mean, I know a lot of older trans people who also are saying, now wait a minute, hey, you've been an inspiration to a lot of people in the community. I'll just say it. Me. Why do you think I have this T-shirt?
That's fair. That's fair.
That's one thing. I do want to talk about what was it like if you've seen the final cut yet. What was it like for you walking with me and hearing me tell you, because of you, I was able to go home and come out because of that fight?
I mean, it was humbling, you know. That's not that's a kind of personal impact that you know, it surprised me, you know, and frankly, like that's what makes the entire project worth it. Like if that's able to give anyone any kind of little push to make those kind of changes, to make that kind of statement, you know, to be able to you know, live more freely and more openly, like that's literally the best thing to come out of this project.
I mean, that's one thing. After one of my games this year, I had the flag extended out. Why? Because I always said I was going to do it. I always said I was going to do it. You did that. I'll say it. I'll give you the flowers. But I'll give you the flowers on that because I'm partially playing football because of you. I'm partially out in the field because of you. Beyond this time, what's next? And what do you hope to see next?
Well, you know, on a personal level, I would like to still have another fight or two. You know, I'm still pushing for that, still angling for that. But beyond that, you know, I don't know. I don't know. We'll just have to see where things go and how they shake out. I'm just trying to, you know, hang on and see where we go from here. But as far as like for the broader movement for trans inclusion and trans rights and queer rights in general, like I don't know. There's a lot of fight ahead of us. You know, and I want to believe that the arc of history bends towards justice, but I feel like that's only the case if we're willing to fight for it. You know, and right now it feels like we're in a pretty crucial time, and we can't really just sit back and rest on our laurels. You know, we've got a lot of work to do.
Exit question. Away from angling for the next fight, away from all the training, away from the home gym you've managed to build, and now being a homeowner, what are you doing with yourself?
Well, I've been wandering through the parks, picking mushrooms and cooking with them, and I've been you know, spending a lot of time with my goofy little cats, and you know, trying to get back into making some art, and you know, spending time with my partner when we can make that happen. And yeah, that's been the majority of it.
Quick follow-up. Promotional poster. No, first, before we begin, yes, you caused this. Just want you to know that I can take no credit for this. This is Alana. I did this because Alana did this. And promotional poster, the sword. Was that an Alana original?
That is my sword right there on the wall. I don't know if you can see it right here.
Yeah, I see it.
That was my sword. Yeah, we put it in a pelican case and flew it with me to Florida, and it conveniently got lost for a couple days, and then they did locate it. But yeah, that is an Alana original. That's mine.
Well, the film is called Unfightable. Check it out. Check it out on VIX starting September 13th. Alana, always good to see you again. You stay in touch.
Good to see you too, Carly.
For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.